I found out my husband has a secret bank account and has been hiding money from me for years. Now he's saying he did it for our own good, but I feel completely betrayed. I have been married to David for 12 years. We met when we were in our mid-20s, and I always thought we had a great relationship. I'm 38 now, and he's 40. We built a life together, bought a house, and even talked about having kids in the next few years. I trusted him completely. He's always been the more responsible one with money, while I handled the day-to-day bills and budgeting. So, imagine my shock when I found out he's been hiding a secret bank account from me for God knows how long. The man I thought I knew has been hiding money behind my back for years. It all started a few months ago when I noticed something strange in our finances. David and I have always shared our accounts, and we're both on the same page when it comes to budgeting and saving. We have joint savings, a checking account, and a small investment account for our future. Or so I thought. One day, while I was balancing the budget, I saw a withdrawal from a bank I didn't recognize. It wasn't from our usual accounts, and the amount was substantial, around $2,000. I figured it was a mistake, maybe a mix-up, so I asked David about it when he got home from work. When I casually brought it up, expecting a simple explanation, David's entire demeanor shifted. He froze for a second, his eyes widening before he quickly recovered and brushed it off. "Oh, that," he said, trying to sound nonchalant. "That's just an old account I forgot to close out." But the way he said it didn't sit right with me. David never forgets about money, ever. He's the type who checks his accounts religiously, so there was no way he'd just forget about an account. I let it go at the time, but something about the whole situation gnawed at me. Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I've never been the snooping type, but I had this sinking feeling that David wasn't telling me the whole truth. So one night when he was out with friends, I decided to look deeper. I went through some old bank statements, and that's when I saw it. Several transfers over the past few years, all going to the same account, the one he claimed was old. These weren't just random deposits either. They were substantial amounts, thousands of dollars every few months. My stomach turned as I realized this account wasn't something he forgot about. He'd been actively using it. I felt sick to my stomach. This wasn't just some forgotten account. It was a secret stash. A secret he had been keeping from me for years. My mind raced with questions. Why would he need a separate account? What was he using the money for? Was there someone else? My heart pounded in my chest as all these horrible thoughts flooded my mind. The worst part was that I didn't have any answers. I just had this overwhelming sense of betrayal. I didn't confront him right away. I needed time to process what I had found, and to figure out how I was going to handle it. For the next few days, I acted like everything was normal, but inside, I was a wreck. Every time I looked at David, all I could think about was the money he'd been hiding. Was our whole relationship a lie? Had he been lying to me about more than just money? I couldn't help but wonder if there were other secrets he hadn't told me. Finally, after a few sleepless nights, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront him. I waited until we were sitting down after dinner one night, and I just blurted it out. "David, I know about the account. I know you've been hiding money from me." His face went pale, and for a second, he didn't say anything. Then he tried to laugh it off, but it was obvious he was nervous. "It's not what you think," he said, but I wasn't having it. "What is it then?" I demanded. "Why do you have a secret bank account, and why have you been hiding money from me for years?" He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, avoiding eye contact. "It's just, I did it for us," he finally said. "For our own good. I was saving extra, just in case." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "For us?" I repeated, incredulous. How was hiding money from me for years supposed to be for us? He started rambling about how he wanted to build a secret nest egg in case something went wrong with our finances, that he didn't want to worry me. But his excuses sounded weak, even to him. "I just wanted to protect us," he said, but I was furious. "Protect us? You lied to me, David. For years. You've been hiding money, and now you're trying to act like you did me a favor." I could feel the anger boiling up inside me, but more than that, I felt hurt. I thought we were a team, but it turns out he had been making decisions behind my back this whole time. I couldn't even look at him. "What else have you been hiding from me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "If you can keep this from me, what else are you lying about?" He tried to calm me down, saying there was nothing else, that it was just the account. But how was I supposed to believe him? The trust we'd built over the past 12 years had been shattered in a matter of minutes. Do you even understand how betrayed I feel right now? I asked, tears welling up in my eyes. I thought we were partners. I thought we were in this together. David sat there, silent, not knowing how to respond. He tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away, unable to let him comfort me. How could I trust him again after this? Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice cracking. Why didn't you feel like you could trust me with this? He looked down, clearly ashamed. I don't know, he admitted. I didn't think you'd understand. I didn't want to worry you, so I just kept it to myself. I shook my head, feeling the weight of his words. That's the problem, David, I said softly. You didn't give me the chance to understand. We sat in silence for what felt like forever, the air thick with tension. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to scream at him to make him feel the pain he caused me, but another part of me just felt numb. How do you move forward from something like this? How do you rebuild trust when it's been broken so completely? I stood up, unable to sit there any longer. I need some space, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I can't be around you right now. David tried to stop me, but I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. I spent the night at my sister's place, trying to make sense of everything. I didn't tell her the whole story, just that David and I were having some issues. I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Saying it made it too real, and I wasn't ready to face that yet. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, all I could think about was the betrayal. The man I'd built a life with, the man I loved, had been keeping secrets from me for years. And not just any secrets. Financial secrets. The kind that could destroy a marriage. The next morning, I went home hoping David would have some better explanation, something that would make all of this easier to swallow. But when I walked in, he looked as lost as I felt. Did you stay at your sister's? He asked quietly, and I nodded, not offering any more information. We sat down in the kitchen, the tension between us palpable. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. I messed up, and I know I did. But I swear, I only did it because I thought it was the right thing to do. I wanted to protect us, our future. I looked at him, trying to find any sign of the man I married. The man who would never lie to me, who I thought I could trust with anything. But all I could see was the betrayal. Protecting us means being honest with me, I said, my voice calm but cold. You don't get to make decisions for both of us and then hide them from me. That's not how a marriage works. He nodded, his eyes downcast. I know, he whispered. I thought I was doing the right thing. His words felt hollow, like he was trying to convince himself more than me. I asked him to show me everything. Every statement, every transfer, every detail of this secret account. At first, he hesitated, but then he finally agreed, probably realizing that if he didn't come clean now, our marriage might not survive. He pulled out his laptop and logged into the account, showing me years' worth of transactions. There it was in black and white, thousands of dollars he had funneled away over the years. My heart sank as I realized just how much money he had hidden from me. This wasn't some small emergency fund. It was an entirely separate financial life. As I looked through the statements, my mind raced with questions. Where was all this money coming from? Was he skimming from our joint account? Or had he been keeping money from bonuses or side gigs that I didn't know about? I asked him, and he admitted that he'd been diverting some of his bonus money into the account. I didn't want to take any chances, he said, as if that somehow justified it. I wanted to make sure we had a backup plan in case something went wrong. But all I heard was that he didn't trust me enough to be part of that plan. The more I looked at the account, the more betrayed I felt. I thought we had been making decisions together about our finances, our future, but clearly I had been in the dark. David had been controlling everything behind my back, and now I had no idea how to move forward. What else are you hiding from me? I asked, my voice shaking. Is there more? Is there anything else I don't know about? He swore there wasn't, but how could I believe him? The trust we'd built over 12 years had crumbled, and I didn't know if I'd ever be able to rebuild it. The next few weeks were a blur. We talked, we fought, we cried, but no matter how many conversations we had, the betrayal still hung over us like a dark cloud. David kept saying he was sorry, that he never meant to hurt me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that our marriage would never be the same. I wanted to forgive him. I really did, but every time I looked at him, all I could think about was the years of lies. I kept asking myself, how do you move past something like this? How do you rebuild trust when it's been shattered so completely? I started confiding in a close friend, someone who knew both me and David well. She was shocked when I told her what had happened. "I can't believe he'd do something like that," she said. "You two always seemed like you had such a strong relationship." I nodded, feeling the weight of those words. We had seemed strong. We were the couple everyone looked up to. But now, I wasn't so sure. My friend asked me what I was going to do, but I didn't have an answer. Part of me wanted to work things out, to try and rebuild the trust, but another part of me just wanted to walk away. David and I went to couples therapy, hoping it would help us navigate the mess we were in. At first, it seemed like it might help. The therapist helped us communicate better, and David started to open up about why he had kept the account a secret. "I grew up poor," he admitted during one session. "My family struggled with money my whole life, and I guess I developed this fear of losing everything. I thought if I had this secret account, it would be like a safety net." His words hit me hard, and for the first time, I started to understand where he was coming from. But understanding didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. I appreciated his honesty, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a decision that affected both of us without including me. "Why didn't you just talk to me about it?" I asked him during one of our therapy sessions. "We could have come up with a plan together." He looked down, clearly ashamed. "I don't know," he said quietly. "I guess I didn't want to burden you. I thought I was protecting you." But in trying to protect me, he had done the exact opposite. He had destroyed the trust between us. As the therapy sessions went on, things slowly started to improve. David was making an effort to be more transparent with me, and I was trying to rebuild the trust that had been broken. But it wasn't easy. Every time I looked at him, I couldn't help but wonder if there were other secrets he wasn't telling me. It was like a shadow that followed us everywhere we went, and no matter how hard we tried to move forward, it was always there, lurking in the background. I didn't know if we'd ever be able to fully move past it. One night, after a particularly emotional therapy session, David and I sat down together and had a long, honest conversation. He apologized again, but this time it felt different. He wasn't just saying sorry. He was really opening up about his fears, his insecurities, and why he had made the decisions he did. For the first time, I felt like I was seeing the real David, the man I had fallen in love with all those years ago. "I know I've hurt you," he said, tears in his eyes. "But I want to fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." Hearing those words brought me some relief, but I knew it would take time for me to truly believe them. We agreed to start fresh, to be more open with each other about everything, especially our finances. David closed the secret account and transferred all the money into our joint savings, showing me that he was committed to being transparent from now on. It was a small step, but it was a start. I wasn't ready to fully forgive him yet, but I was willing to try and rebuild what we had lost. In the months that followed, things slowly started to improve. David was more open with me, and we began to have regular check-ins about our finances, something we hadn't done in years. I could see he was making an effort, and I appreciated that. But the trust we had before still wasn't there. I found myself second-guessing everything he said, wondering if he was hiding something else from me. It wasn't fair to him, but I couldn't help it. The betrayal had cut so deep, and I didn't know how to fully move past it. One of the hardest parts of all of this was the toll it took on our relationship outside of finances. I started to pull away emotionally, afraid to let myself be vulnerable again. I had been blindsided once, and I didn't want to go through that pain again. David noticed the distance, and though he tried to close the gap, it was clear that things weren't the same. We still loved each other, but the ease, the comfort we once had, it was gone, replaced by this constant undercurrent of tension. I started questioning everything. Was this something we could really move past? Could I ever fully trust David again, or would this betrayal always be in the back of my mind, casting a shadow over our marriage? I didn't have the answers, and that uncertainty weighed on me every day. I wanted to believe that we could work through this, but I also didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if there were other secrets lurking in the background, waiting to be discovered. Our therapist suggested that we take a break from focusing on the betrayal and try to reconnect on a deeper level, outside of the financial issues. We started going on more dates, spending time together like we used to before everything fell apart. At first, it felt forced, but over time, I started to remember why I fell in love with David in the first place. He was still the kind, caring man I married, even if he had made a terrible mistake. Slowly, the walls I had built around my heart began to come down. But even as we began to rebuild our relationship, the trust issue lingered. It was like a wound that hadn't fully healed, and every now and then something would happen to reopen it. A missed call, a suspicious charge on a credit card, little things that wouldn't have bothered me before now set off alarm bells in my mind. I hated feeling this way, but I couldn't help it. The betrayal had changed me, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever be able to go back to the person I was before. Despite all of this, David continued to show me that he was committed to making things right. He was patient with me, understanding when I needed space, and always willing to talk things through when I had doubts. He even suggested that we start seeing a financial advisor together to help us get back on track and build a stronger financial future together. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot to me. He was showing me in his own way that he was serious about rebuilding the trust between us. As the months went on, things between us slowly began to improve. It wasn't perfect. We still had our moments of doubt and tension, but we were both making an effort to move forward. I still wasn't sure if I'd ever fully forgive David for what he did, but I was beginning to see that forgiveness didn't have to happen all at once. It was something that would take time, and that was okay. We were both willing to put in the work, and that was what mattered. Looking back now, I realized that David's betrayal taught me a lot about myself and about our relationship. It forced me to confront some uncomfortable truths, that even the people we love the most are capable of hurting us, and that trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to rebuild. But it also taught me that relationships aren't always black and white. People make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones, but that doesn't mean the relationship has to be over. It's about whether both people are willing to fight for it. I'm still not sure where our marriage will go from here. We're in a better place than we were, but there's still a lot of work to do. Some days I feel hopeful that we can fully move past this and build an even stronger relationship. Other days I'm not so sure, but for now we're both committed to trying, and that's enough for me. I've learned that healing takes time, and as long as we're both willing to put in the effort, there's a chance that we can come out of this stronger. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that trust is the foundation of any relationship. Without it, everything else falls apart. David's betrayal shook me to my core, but it also gave me the opportunity to rebuild, not just our marriage, but myself. I'm stronger now, more aware of what I need in a relationship, and more willing to stand up for myself when something doesn't feel right. As for David, I think he's learned a lot too. He's realized that secrecy, even if done with the best of intentions, can destroy a relationship. He's learned that protecting someone doesn't mean keeping them in the dark. It means being open and honest, even when it's hard. I hope that we can both take these lessons and use them to build a better future together, but only time will tell if that's possible. In the end, I'm hopeful that we can move forward from this. It won't be easy, and there will be times when the past feels like a heavy burden, but I'm choosing to believe that our marriage is worth fighting for. We've been through so much together, and while this betrayal has shaken us, it hasn't broken us. I'm hopeful that we can rebuild, stronger and more connected than ever. David and I still have a long way to go, but for now, we're taking things one day at a time. We're learning how to communicate better, how to be more open with each other, and how to rebuild the trust that was lost. It's not perfect, but it's progress. And sometimes, progress is enough. The road ahead is uncertain, but I'm choosing to focus on the present. We're working through our issues, and while the trust may take time to fully return, I'm committed to giving it a chance. We've been through too much together to give up now, and I believe that we can come out of this stronger, as long as we're both willing to put in the work. There are still moments of doubt, moments when the weight of what happened feels too heavy to bear. But those moments are becoming fewer and farther between. I'm starting to trust David again, little by little, and he's showing me through his actions that he's committed to making things right. It's not perfect, but it's progress. And for now, that's enough. We've still got a long way to go, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can rebuild what was lost, that we can move forward and create a new chapter in our marriage. It won't be easy, but nothing worth having ever is. And as long as we're both willing to fight for it, I believe we can make it through.